All right, gang, let's get started. Russ, thank you so much for that music. That's great. So good morning. Good morning. You have joined us on the right day. First of all, of course, it's the first day of the business week with the holiday. So it is Tuesday. Just remember that, not Monday. We have a special guest with us here this morning. One of my favorite people. Had the opportunity to work with her for a couple of years now, kind of directly. But I want to introduce her and then just tell you a little bit about her, and then of course give her an opportunity to do the same. So Leslie, let's make certain that you're on, you're connected, and that we can hear one another. Make certain that everything technically is in place. So can you hear me? Leslie, are you there?
Unmute. Okay.
Oh, there you are. Yep. Okay. So let's first of all, let's just make certain that folks are aware that your lighting's not the best because you're relying on natural lighting. What happened last night?
Oh, we had about 50 miles an hour wind, 50-mile-an-hour wind, still blowing like crazy. So electricity went out. I don't know when.
Okay.
In the middle of the night.
Well, come hail or high wind, you're going to show up, right?
That's right. Thank goodness I woke up in the middle of the
Yeah.
night to realize my electricity was off.
I know. We were both talking about that because we both use Alexa for our alarms in the morning. And it seems like every time that I set that, I say to myself, you know, I should probably set an alarm on my phone just in case the power goes out. And that actually happened to you. Good news is that you woke up. So
yes, and from now on, I will set my phone as well.
yeah, I think it's you just proved that it's a possibility. So I'll do the same. Well, so let me first of all, I want to give just an overview of your business, if I could, and then you know, we'll get into our conversation. But this last year, 2020, what? Just tell us what your numbers were, your sides closed, and then your income.
2020, I did 16 deals.
Okay.
And that was of that 5 were buyers, 9 were sellers.
Okay.
And I grossed 210,000.
Okay. Okay. So if you do the math, that works out to be approximately 60% of your business is listings, which is great. It's fantastic. Yeah. So compare that those numbers to 2019. As I recall, you said you did 9 sides. Is that correct?
Yes, in 2019, it was only 9 sides. And
yeah.
I don't know what the deal was that year, but.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you say only 9, but I mean, we know that the average agent sells between 2 and 3. And the fact is that if you look at even productive agents on a national level, not the agents who are doing 2 or 3, but productive agents, NAR says that that they're making around $60,000 annually. And I think in 2019, you made 140, as I recall. So you're doing far better than the average even producing agent. But you increased your business by 77% from 2019 to 2020. So the question is, how did you do that? But before we get into that, I want to just make certain that we get an opportunity to know you a little bit better. So tell us a little bit about Leslie Kreuzberger. Who is Leslie?
Who is Leslie? Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I love talking about myself. Ho, ho, ho.
Well, if you can't do it, I'll help you do it.
Okay. Well, I've been selling real estate since 1990, but I was always part-time. Had kids, had a family. You know, it was the second income. It allowed us to buy a step-up home and be in a nicer home. Got divorced in 97. But at that time, I was getting a money from my ex. So I still didn't have to work that hard. I got to the point where my daughter, my youngest, turned 18, and then I needed to step it up. So that's when I got more serious into real estate. It really, my best year prior to this year was right before I came to your company, John, and took a leap at that point and, you know, increased my business with your help, of course. So I wasn't really serious in real estate until the last couple of years, maybe 2015, I guess, where I took on a more full-time position in real estate. So
that's cool.
You know.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Maryland. Grew up on the East Coast.
Now, see, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep.
Where in Maryland? Not that I'm extremely familiar, but any cities that we would recognize?
What? Yeah, Baltimore in my younger
Oh,
years.
okay. Okay.
Potomac, right outside Washington D.C. in my later years.
Oh, I did not
Uh,
know that. So if we
yeah,
need a good if we need a good tour of DC, you'd be the person to take us.
yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
But actually, yes, I got married young. Got married at 19, had a baby at 20, moved out here when I was 20. So, my older years, at 20, I'm still very young. Moved out to California and started a life out here.
Well, from my perspective, you're still very young. The older I
Oh,
get,
thank you, John.
yes.
Yes, the older we get, the younger everybody else seems.
Everybody else seems, yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's great. So I believe this is correct, and I think that you said it. Your best year then was 2020, since you've been in the business. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. And I find that fascinating because so many people used everything that was going on in 2020 as an excuse to not do well. And I've talked to several agents who, in fact, did what you did, which is have their best year in 2020. So the question is, how did you do that? How did you go from what you would consider to be a subpar year, because you grimaced when you said you only did 9 transactions, and then to go to your best year and making what I think it was $210,000. So
Right.
how would you do?
It's funny, John, because I had one deal in January, a double-ended it. Then the pandemic hit. My daughter came home. We sat here, we played games, we did everything but work because it was a pandemic. And
Yeah.
it took me about a month before I realized, oh my gosh, I got to go back to work. I mean,
Yeah.
this, and to imagine this still going on, who would have thought it would go on this long? But so at that point, I went back to work, and it was just a matter of making phone calls. I couldn't door knock, which is a big avenue of business for me. It was making phone calls. And honestly, John, I did not ask one person for business. And I don't know if that was the difference. I just called, said, hey, how you doing? You need anything? How are you handling this? Just had warm conversations with my database. And it was amazing, people calling me and saying, gee, Leslie, can you come list my house? I'm like, oh, let me think about it. It was, so the business came with that. Some of the phone calls, go ahead.
Well, just pause on that for a second, because we've got time to get granular on some of this stuff, and I want to make certain people are pulling these nuggets out of what you're saying, because you've done something amazing. You've done something that most agents didn't do. Not only did you rebound significantly from what you considered a subpar year, but you also made it your best year ever during a pandemic, and then everything else that was going on in 2020. It's interesting. I think one of the things that 2020 taught us is the importance, obviously, of maintaining contact with the people that we already know. And I hear so often, Leslie, and we've talked about this, about, I don't know what to say to those people, right? You want me to keep calling them, but I don't know what to say. And the thing that, and I can put you on the spot here, but if you recall what I say about this is, it's really about a mindset. I mean, the mindset is, are you going to be calling them, asking them for something, or are you calling them, offering your assistance, right? I mean, you're just there for them, just to maintain contact with them. And I think that's one of the things that the pandemic, for those who were active and did their job like you did, it was really a great reminder, and really, I think, a clarification, and probably a big affirmation of, all we have to do is simply stay in contact with people. And you don't have to ask them for business every time you talk to them.
Right. And
so what did you say to them when you called these people? What did you say?
I would say, hey, this is Leslie with Century 21, or I might not even say Century 21 because I have a relationship with a lot of these people. I would just call and say, hey, I'm just calling to check in. How are you doing? I would just start the conversation, and then I would just listen, pretty much listen, because everybody wanted to talk about the pandemic. Everybody wanted to talk about it, and everybody's got different feelings, different beliefs. So I did not share mine most of the time. I just listened and said, yeah, I get it. And, if you need anything, you don't hesitate to call me, whether it's real estate related or not. I mean, I was out there to.
Well, yeah, talk about that, because I know that you did some things and help people out. So, right.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there were people that needed help just with getting groceries and,
Right.
you
That's
know,
what I mean.
yeah, yes. So I
So
was
just
able to
really
help people that needed that were afraid to go out, you
value
know.
to people. Right.
So, and John, really, I sat on my back porch most of the time doing this business this last year. I didn't go into the office.
That's the other thing, that if you are disciplined that in this business, that you can really do the business anywhere, right? As long as you're disciplined. And the fact is that you did your best business, your best year, made more than you ever have in your entire life in 1 year, with most of that time spent at home, right?
Yeah,
And a lot of it
yeah,
spent on your back porch with a beautiful view. So,
yes,
right.
yes. And my biggest obstacle was my daughter because she came home. Mom, what are we doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So I had to figure that out and make her understand that I still had to work.
Okay, before we get to that though, I want to kind of break down, because in terms of your sources, it sounds like a good portion of your business comes from your SOI. What percentage of your business comes from your SOI?
Well, 9 deals came from my SOI this last year out of 16. So that's what,
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
it's
I didn't figure out percentages.
60%. That's 60%.
60%.
Yeah. So
Um,
60% came from your SOI. What do
yes.
you do historically? What have you done? Did you do anything differently in 2020 that allowed you to do more business?
My goal in 2020 with your help was to talk to everybody. And I did not talk to everybody, but I'd left messages, but to contact every single person in my database. And I hit that goal this year. You start and you go through but I spoke to probably 75, 80% of those people, where a lot of times, it's messages, but I was determined to really talk to people.
Okay. And had you been that diligent or that successful in reaching everybody in your previous years, or this is the first year that you had done that?
This is the first year that I really put a goal to that.
Okay.
I do that every year. That's what I do. I talk to people quarterly. My
Yeah.
goal is to try to talk to everybody quarterly, but a lot of those were messages. Where this year I made sure that I kept calling back until
Until you
I
reach
hit
them.
them in that quarter. Yes.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think that's huge.
fantastic. Well, I mean, by evidence of the fact that, you had your best year.
Yes.
And the fact is that 60% of your business came from your SOI, which is fantastic. So if someone were to say, okay, I want to use your approach to SOI, you would say, well, make certain, of course, that you're talking to everybody every quarter, not just leaving a message, but making certain that at some point that you've called enough that eventually they pick up, so you can have a person-to-person conversation. What else are you doing with your SOI? Is there anything else that unique that you're
Yes.
doing?
And John, I'll tell you, there are some of them that I didn't get in touch with and that I've always left messages that I have now deleted from my SOI. There's no point in continuing to call if I can't get in touch with them.
Right. I love that. Wait a minute, because that is such an important mindset. Because in real estate, there's such a scarcity mindset, right? Of when we have a number, we have a lead, or we have a transaction and it's bad, or they're not good. We try to hold on to it for dear life because we aren't ultimately doing our job. But when as you were doing, because one of the things that we do is we work together, you send me a report every day in terms of the calls, the contacts that you've made, and the productivity that came from that. And doing that on a daily basis, and here you are making these calls, there's less of a sense of this mindset of scarcity. It's like, look, if they're not going to answer, they're not going to call me back, they're not really in my sphere of influence. Because how many times did you call somebody before you decided, well, I've got to purge them from the list? If they're not answering, they're not calling back.
I would say through a year, at least through a year, 4 times
Okay, so,
each quarter.
Okay, at least 4 times. Okay.
I called somebody the other day that hung up on me. I went, oh, okay, time to delete them.
Right.
And it might just be that they have another realtor. You can't take it personally. I mean, at first I was like, oh my gosh, how what? They don't like me? There's somebody from my church that doesn't go to my church anymore, but so they have another realtor that they use. It could be that simple, or they just don't want to be bothered.
Right. Yeah. But what I love though is just simply your mindset of, look, I'm creating enough opportunity. I don't need to hold on to dead leads, bad transactions, situations that, because we've talked this year about transactions you're in and about just simply, firing your clients. And I think the only real opportunity to do that, to have that boldness, to have that mindset, is to do what you do, which is to be productive consistently. And I say productive, I'm talking about just simply applying yourself to the process, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
having faith that you're going to get the results. So, okay. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's important to observe, that there's a mindset there that I can do that because I'm actually doing my job, and I know that I'm going to be generating business from other sources, including other people in my SOI who actually do pick up or who do return my phone calls.
Right. Or who do refer me business.
Or who do refer you business.
So some of the other things that I do, I send out a monthly email
Okay.
to everybody in my database. That goes out almost every month. Every once in a while, I'll drop the ball, but and it's a personal. I don't even have a CRM system, John. I just send out and I say hi because I don't have a CRM to personalize it. But it's not. I like some of these things that other agents do, a newsletter type thing. Mine is more personal. I do a little blurb on what the market is doing currently. If I have any listings, I'll post them. If I have something else of value, I'll put it on there, or a coupon for a restaurant or whatever. Send that out monthly. My thought is, I don't care if they open it or not. They see my name every single month. And it's a reminder that Leslie does real estate.
Right.
And I believe that is a big part of my success. I really do.
And I know it is. I firmly believe that consistency is the great equalizer. That despite what's going on in the market, despite how new an agent is or how difficult things have been for them, that if they find consistency in doing the right things every day, as you have done, that you're going to get great results. And you're proof of that. We might say that if it were a phenomenal year in real estate, that there was no pandemic, that there were no protests, no riots, no election, all the things that have happened, no unemployment rates that shot up on a national level to 18%, and all the challenges that we have in our local markets, that if those things hadn't been happening and you had increased your business by 77% and the market was raging, we would say, well, that's why. But the fact is, we can't ascribe it to that because we know what happened. And so we have to look at, well, what did you do that was different from what you've done previously, but also what did you do that you always do? So that would be one of the things that I want to ask you. What did you do differently in 2020 that you maybe didn't do historically in your business, aside from what you shared with us?
That's a good question. Because normally I door knock. I didn't get to do door knocking this year, and didn't door dropping. So I really think, again, it comes back to making sure that I hit every single person in my database. Other than that, I can't think of anything I did different.
Well, do you think,
honestly, John,
well, but do you think that you followed your schedule better than you have before? Do you think?
Okay. Yes.
Right?
Yes. I was more consistent with getting up, getting my phone calls made. I have not, with the pandemic and not playing racquetball and doing the things I do in the morning, I haven't been an early riser, but I had to be up and reporting to you by 9:15 that I was on the phone and making those phone calls. And yes, it was much more consistent with that this year.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear you say, because I want people to hear that they want to know, okay, so it's a CRM. No, it's not a CRM. Okay, she's doing something it's a magical flyer that she sent out. No, she's updating them on the market, right? The statistics, and a little blurb on herself, and a coupon to a restaurant. So no, it's nothing magical there. The magic is it goes back to what I said. The great equalizer is consistency in doing the right things. And one of the things that you and I have worked on is just simply working on your daily discipline of making those phone calls and reporting on it.
Yes. Well, yeah, if I have to report, I got to do it. So it's holding yourself accountable to somebody, whomever it is. Right. And I'm lucky enough to have you as my, so to speak, accountability partner, because I know I've got to report at the end of the day. It's like, oh, I've only made, I might get off track and only have made 10 contacts. I got to get
Yeah.
those other 10 done before the end of the day.
So you would recommend that if people want to have their best year in 2021, that they should become more accountable, find an accountability partner, sign an accountability contract, but be accountable to their goals and to the process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Cool. So describe for us then a typical day. What does your typical day look like?
Typical day. Right now, I get up, I go for a 3-mile walk with my daughter. I get home, quick shower, get dressed, sit down in my, well, don't sit down. Now I'm back in my office. I go back into my office. I start my day, get on the phone by 9:15 and work for an hour, take a quick break, walk around, work for another hour on the phone. So that's my 2 hours of prospecting.
Okay, pause for a second because I want to break this down a little bit. So you get up at generally the same time, and the first thing that you do is go out and do something active. So you're walking with your daughter, which I think is important. And then you come back. Are you eating anything at that point?
Oh yeah, yes,
that?
of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the reason I want this is because everything that we do over time has a compound effect. And if people want to know, okay, how is Leslie doing this? How is she staying? How did she maintain her mindset, her energy throughout the course of one of the most difficult years any of us have ever lived through? And yet she made more than she's ever have. How did she do that? So you're up, physical activity, you come back, shower, eat, and then you get on the phone. You said something was interesting. You'll call for an hour and then you take a break. How long do you take a break?
Oh, maybe 10, 15 minutes, just enough to get
Okay.
up, walk around, and I should be standing when I make the calls, but I've
Well, that
gotten
was the
used
next thing I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, because we've talked about that. Because we talked about prospect for 50 minutes and then take 10 minutes for a mental mindset break, and then also just get up and move around, get the blood
Right.
flowing. So at this point, you're not standing up. So we're going to use this as a coaching opportunity. Leslie, would you like to have more energy when you prospect?
Of course.
Okay, then stand up when you prospect.
Okay. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, and you and I get to have fun together. We've been working together really on the accountability and some calls for how long now? How long have we been doing that?
Oh gosh, maybe 2 years, a year and a half.
Yeah, about that. I want to say it started in the fall of 18. I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
I think. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Well, great. So you prospect for a couple of hours, and who are you calling? Who are your sources? We know, of course, your SOI, but are there other sources you're focused on?
Not so much. I call a little bit on
some expireds, right?
Yes, I had one expired listing last year and one the year before. That is not my specialty. So I guess I call on just listed, just sold, John. I love calling on just listed. I think it's a much easier call than just sold. And you just get a list and phone numbers and make calls. And I've gotten a lot of business that way as well.
Yeah, especially in this market, right? If you've got an active listing, you've
Yes.
taken a listing. It's hot. People want to know. So
Yes.
You've got gold in your hands. Okay. All right. So your sphere of influence, just listed, just sold, a smattering of expired listings.
Past clients, which is
Past
SOI.
clients. So your SOI. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you doing with the rest of your day? Once you prospect, what do you do?
Then there's the lead follow-up. Honestly, my schedule is not as good as it should be. I spend the rest of my day as lead follow-up, working on deals, the deals that I have, the transactions that I have. And then the afternoons.
Oh, go ahead. In the afternoons.
Going out on appointments.
Okay. Would you say in terms of your follow-up, you're good at that? You've been consistent at it? Yes,
I would say that I'm pretty good at that. Yes.
Yeah. And I know that. I think it's important to recognize that, because I've talked about this, that prospecting and follow-up are not the same thing. When you get up and you make your calls, that's about lead generation, and then follow-up is more about lead conversion. So I know that's one of the things that we have worked on. So, okay. So what would you say that you are best at in this business?
What are my options? I'm best at, you mean in my
Well, it
prospecting?
could be your prospecting. It could be that you're consistent. Could be your listing presentation. Could be your buyer broker presentation. I mean,
Well, that's probably when my mindset goes down the tank. I don't think I'm that good at anything. I don't mean that.
and then of course the numbers prove otherwise, right?
Right. Oh, well, what I think I'm best at is door knocking. I really missed that this year. I love being out on the street. I love talking to people. And I think that's what I do very well. So,
Okay, so if somebody says, well, yeah, that me as well, and we're in a pandemic and we can't knock on doors, then your response is what?
then
Because you've
make the
done it.
phone call.
Then make the phone calls, right? In other words, look for the solution. There's a solution, right?
Right.
Because basically everybody's under the same rules, in your local market, whether Utah, California, whatever the rules are, those are the rules. So, okay.
Right.
All right.
So as well as that, I send out a, what else do I do? The only other thing I do with my SOI is I do try to send out a quarterly postcard. So that
okay.
my face is, again, it's just different avenues of staying in touch.
And that postcard, what is on it? What do you put on it?
It could be as simple as call Leslie for your real estate needs. I mean, or if I have a listing that just went on the market or just sold, I might put that on there. I say that I haven't been as consistent with that as I should be, but it's just a pretty standard postcard that says,
Okay.
I love my job. Call me if you need me.
So on a monthly basis, you're sending the email. On a quarterly basis, you're doing the postcard, and then you're making the phone calls on a quarterly basis as well.
Right.
Okay.
And then I also have a company outbound engine that sends something out, I think bi-monthly, that it's like Market Matters or any of those things where they send it out, I guess through Facebook, that gives information about what the real estate market's doing.
Yep. Yeah.
And that hits.
That's great. So you would say that the best thing that you do again then is what? Because this is a lead up to my next question. What would you say the best thing is that you do?
Staying in touch with people.
Yeah, you make the calls. So what has been your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge,
Leslie, the reason I'm asking this is because I want those who are listening to recognize that you're human too, and despite the fact that you did 210,000 in GCI and 16 transactions during a pandemic, that you still have challenges, you still have issues, that you're a human, right? So sure. I want them to be able to relate. So what's been your challenge or challenges?
I think having a schedule and staying on that schedule has been a big challenge. It's so easy to get distracted. So that's been a challenge. I know what my biggest challenge is. When I get busy with business, I don't stay on track with my prospecting. And I've seen the results of that. You and I have seen that. The one year that I was so busy at the end of the year, well, I had nothing going in the first quarter because I didn't do any prospecting.
Right.
So that's a huge challenge.
So
stay on track.
So how have you dealt with that? What have you been doing to try to get better at that?
Well, even if I'm busy on those busy days, I know that I still have to at least make 10 contacts. I might not make my 20, 25, but I make sure that I am contacting people every day.
So it goes back to the discipline, the accountability, just following that core schedule of I have to make my calls every day.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, with all the people that I work with and the agents that I talk to, you're probably not going to believe this, but you're one of the best at doing it. And I have to tell you, and for a long time, because we've been doing this now for nearly a year and a half, and here we are, and you're still doing it. So I mean, kudos to you, because you've been consistent at doing that.
Thank you.
I've watched your progress, you're welcome. Your progress, especially as it relates to just the discipline to make the calls, but then also your mindset. What I've noticed is that, I don't know if you remember this, I hope you don't mind me sharing, that when we first started, there was this mindset roller coaster that you would go on, and the highs would be high, but the lows would be low, and it would be very long troughs of low. It would take us quite a bit of time to get out of it. And now we're still on that roller coaster because we always are. It's called life.
Sure.
But the lows aren't as low and they're not as wide.
Not as
they're
long.
very short. Yeah, they're not as long. Have you noticed that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what would you attribute that to? Because I have an opinion on it, but why? What is that all about? What have you mastered, or what have you figured out? What are you doing differently?
I think that I've just figured out that consistency makes a difference, and that you just say next. I mean, because some of my lows were based on, you lose a deal or you didn't get the listing, and just that there's plenty of business out there and you just keep moving forward.
Yep, you just said it there. That's what I was hoping that you would say, because we've talked about this. My statement on it is this, that don't derive your sense of self-confidence from the results that you get, but rather derive your sense of self-confidence from applying the process every day, right? In other words, what is the formula? The formula is I get up, I exercise, I shower, I eat, I get on the phone, I make my calls for 2 hours, and then I follow that schedule. And I do that more often than not every single day. And because I do that consistently, lo and behold, I get great results over time, right? But there are days where we've talked about it, where you're doing it, right? And we all go through these stretches where we're not getting the results, and then we start to question, well, what's going on? Why isn't it working, right? Yes. We start to second guess ourselves. And yes, what you've been able to do is to not second guess yourself as often and as for long. And that's been fantastic. I think that's one of the things that you're best at, I believe at this point, is that you're really good at managing that. And when you start to feel that mindset shift, like your mindset is starting to plummet, that you wrestle hold of that and you control that so that it's not as deep and not as long. And you just start to go back again to, okay, I know what I need to do, so I'm going to just continue to make those calls. You've been really good at that. Your progress, actually, if there was a chart, it would be like a hockey stick in terms of your improvement on that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So why do you do all of this? I mean, what's your purpose? What drives you to get up and be as consistent and disciplined as you are?
I am not as driven with purpose, but I guess my purpose is really my family. My family is my purpose. I want to be able to take vacations. I want to take them all to Europe. I want to, that's what I love more than anything, is spending time with my family, with my grandkids. So my purpose is to make money to take them places. I like, my house needs a lot of work. I would love to leave, not really a legacy like my father did, but I would love to, when I'm gone, I would love to have money that they all get when I'm gone. So that's what I work for vacations with my kids. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to Mammoth this year as planned.
Well, it just means you'll save the money from last year plus whatever you're going to accumulate this year, and you can take them on an even bigger, better trip.
Yeah, there you go, John.
Yeah, maybe it's Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish with maybe 2 questions, maybe 1, depending upon how long the conversation is. But what's the best thing that you've done for your business?
What's the best thing I've done for my business? I guess it was moving over to Century 21.
Okay, now, see, I didn't, and I want everybody to know, I didn't set you up for that intentionally, but we certainly didn't talk about that. But when you say that, you don't need to say it, but I appreciate you saying it, but you're sincere when you say that.
Oh, I'm sincere. It's huge. I mean, I tell people constantly, I talk to my CEO, I talk to my president, and they are behind me. And the resources that we have through C21 and the opportunities that you give me, and the help that I can get. I know I can call you anytime, John, and say, hey, how do I handle this? It's huge. And you have answers. At other companies that I was with, it just wasn't there. So the support of C21 is huge. But that wasn't really the question, or was it? What is my
No, that was it. What was the best thing you've done for your business? So,
okay, yes,
I mean, if that's the answer, and I appreciate it. I mean, if there are other things that you want to share, but so you say that Okay, so that's the best thing. But everybody who's on this Zoom cast, they're with the company, and maybe they're not
Right.
doing the production that you're doing. So then translate that. What was it about the experience? What have you taken advantage of specifically? What did you learn? What are you doing differently? Just kind of summarize that, because I want them to walk away saying, okay, I'm with the same company. Leslie is saying the best thing she's ever done for her business is this. I'm not doing her business. So what do I need to do differently? What advice would you give them?
Well, one thing that I would say is to believe in yourself and be strong and fight for a full commission. I did 16 deals. I made 210,000. That's pretty good. I mean, really,
Yeah.
I didn't do 24 deals. I didn't do a ton of deals. But I think, holding strong, which is very difficult right now because so many people are cutting their commission. And I have lost a couple of deals because I wouldn't go down to 3.5%.
Right.
But I can go and find other business. And that's because you've taught me to do that, John. So I think to me, that's really important. Really important.
Yeah. Hold strong to that, and obviously you're able to do that by building the value that you offer to people. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about and worked on is, improving your listing presentation, improving your conversation, and how you communicate the value that you offer to people, and really separating yourself from the competition. You've been great at that in your progress. So, well, anything else you want to share with the group? I mean, you've shared a lot of great things, and I hope that they've paid attention. Your consistency in reaching out to your people, providing them value, the market statistics on a monthly basis, plus making certain that everybody has a conversation with Leslie every quarter. It's not just simply a voicemail or, hey, well, I tried, but they didn't pick up. That everybody gets to have a conversation with Leslie. And then, of course, just your consistency and this idea, this mindset of, look, if somebody isn't calling me back, or if the client doesn't fit within my
What happened? Oh, low power mode. John, you there?
Yep, we lost power.
Yes, I wonder if I have power now in my house. I'm low power on my battery, on my phone.
It's okay.
The other thing I was going to say real quickly is just having goals. I set goals last year. I wanted a new washer and dryer. I'm working on my home, but having those goals set really helped push me as well. And then doing those goals, I'd set goals and but I made sure that I set goals and I achieved them. And then I did what those goals were. Does that make sense?
That's great. It does make sense. Yeah. So the basic theme that I'm hearing from you, and that I want everybody to just walk away with as we conclude here, is just your discipline, identifying what the process is, what the goals are, and then being held accountable to that consistently every single day. And as a result, you've accomplished great things, which is awesome. And it's been fun to watch it. It's been fun to watch your journey, how it's affected you, not only in your business, but also personally. And the growth that I've seen in you as an amazing, beautiful human being. So it's been fun working with you, and I'm looking forward to many more years of it. So Leslie, thank you so much for your time this morning. Let's everybody who's on give her a round of virtual applause and thank her for her time, for getting up early, and despite not having power, being here with us. So Leslie, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay. All right. Let's finish it up with some closing affirmations.